On November 13, 2022, in the early morning hours, four University of Idaho college students were fatally stabbed at a shared rental house close to school where three of them lived. Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, and Xana Kernodle were the three female victims who resided at the home, and Ethan Chapin was Xana's boyfriend who was staying over the night of the attacks. Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen also rented rooms in the house, but they were not harmed. Maddie Mogen was born on May 25, 2001 in Eugene, Oregon. She was an only child and she had a great sense of humor. People that knew her said she loved to laugh and always made the people around her have a good time in her presence. She loved making TikTok videos. She had a loving family even if her parents were divorced. She was also very smart and a great student. She met her best friend Kaylee Goncalves in middle school and they were very close. They pleaded with their parents to go to high school together and they did everything together. They were like sisters. Kaylee's parents felt like Maddie was part of their family as she was spending a lot of time with them, and she had a great relationship with the other Goncalves siblings as well. After high school, Maddie and Kaylee decided to go to the same college and they chose the University of Idaho. Maddie majored in marketing and she joined the sorority Pi Beta Phi. She worked part-time at a restaurant called Mad Greek. She also had a boyfriend named Jake, and none of her extracurricular activities prevented her from remaining focused on her studies and her future. She was 21 years old and she was doing a great job balancing her student life with work and friendships. Her best friend, Kaylee Goncalves, was born on June 8, 2001. She was the middle child of 5 siblings. Her father describes her as the planner and the memory maker of the family. She was very funny and into fashion. Kaylee was willing to work for what she wanted, and she adored being the big sister as well as a young sister. She was known for being an incredible friend, loyal and loving, and that's how she got so close to Maddie. The two girls got the best of both worlds as they were spending time together at Maddie's house when they needed private times for study or just to relax. Then they would go to Kaylee's house for the fun stuff with the other kids. Kaylee majored in general studies and she was thinking about becoming a teacher. She was in the Alpha Phi sorority and she had an IT job in Texas waiting for her after graduation. Xana Kernodle was born on July 5, 2002. And she also had an older sister named Jasmine. Xana was very much into sports, and in high school she played a variety of sports like soccer, volleyball, and track. She enjoyed spending time outdoors and was very into EDM music and going to concerts. She was described as a very optimistic and positive young lady, very social and interested in making everyone feel at ease around her. She was active and loved the simple things in life, not paying much attention to the material things. She enrolled at the University of Idaho and, like Maddie, she majored in marketing and joined the Pi Beta Phi sorority. Another thing the girls had in common was working at the same restaurant, Mad Greek. Xana was in a relationship with Ethan Chapin since the summer of 2022, and they were spending a lot of time together and with their families. Ethan was born on October 28, 2002, and he was a triplet. His two other siblings are named Maisie and Hunter. They were very close and they loved one another deeply. They even went and got a job together at a tulip farm during the time all the restrictions were in place in 2020, and they found a way to spend time as a family outside. Their bond was so strong that they also decided to go to college together and they enrolled at the University of Idaho. Ethan shared a lot of Xana's passions. Much like her, he loved sports and to spend time out in the open. He played basketball and soccer, volleyball, golf. He liked to surf and he was athletic in general. He was open to any kind of activities that involved sports. Ethan majored in sports management and he joined a fraternity called Sigma Chi. The four students were really good friends and they were spending a lot of their free time together as a group. On the evening of November 12, between the hours of 8 and 9, Ethan and Xana attended an on-campus party at the nearby Sigma Chi fraternity where Ethan was a member. By 1:45 a.m., they went back home. Maddie and Kaylee arrived at the downtown sports bar, the Corner Club, at 10 p.m. and they left at 1:30 a.m. The girls were captured in a live-streamed video on Twitch by the Grub Truck, a food truck 4 blocks away at Friendship Square, at 1:41 in the morning, laughing and talking. 10 minutes later, they received their food and then they left to take what the police initially believed to be an Uber ride home, a journey of about 1 mile. The ride was given by a private party, according to the police revised statement, and they got home at 1:56 in the morning. By 1:56 a.m., all 4 students had returned home. At 2:26 and 2:52 in the morning, Kaylee made 7 phone calls to her ex-boyfriend that remained unanswered. From 2:44 to 2:52 in the morning, Maddie tried to call him 3 times, but he still didn't answer. After looking into these calls, the police came to the conclusion that he was not involved in any way in the events that unfolded later in the night. At 4 a.m., Xana received a DoorDash order. Original accounts indicated that the 2 surviving roommates, Dylan and Bethany, were in their beds on the bottom floor of the house when the murders occurred, as they too had already returned home by 1 in the morning. It was first said that neither of them woke up during the killings and that they were not attacked nor held prisoners. Even if the murders happened very early in the morning, no 911 call was made until 11:58 a.m. A call was placed at that moment from within the house from the cell phone of one of the surviving students who resided there, requesting assistance for an unconscious person. The front entrance of the house was open when the police arrived. The interior of the house showed no sign of forced entry or damage, and nothing seemed to be gone. Dylan, Bethany, and some of the victims' acquaintances were also there. The surviving roommates assumed one of the victims on the second floor was unconscious and was not waking up, so they asked friends to come over to the house. It was later revealed that the person who found Ethan's body was his friend. Kaylee's dog was also found in one of the rooms, alive and unharmed. Around 12 o'clock, all 4 victims were declared dead. Police thought the murders took place between 4 and 4:25 in the morning. On the second and third levels of the residence, the 4 victims were stabbed to death. The students were not bound or gagged, and blood was all over the nearby walls. The scene was so horrible that blood was dripping on the outside wall of the house. Maddie and Kaylee were found in Maddie's room, where they were sleeping in the same bed. It's still not clear where exactly Xana and Ethan were, but it is believed that Ethan was in the doorway of Xana's room and she was inside the room. After the news broke, on the evening of November 13th, the university canceled classes for November 14th. It also planned a candlelight vigil for the UI administration building lawn on November 16th in the evening. However, it was postponed by 2 weeks. Investigators first declared there was no risk to the community on the day of the murders. 3 days later, Moscow Police Chief James Fry stated, "We cannot say that there is no threat to the community."
It is a complex and terrible crime, and it will take some time to resolve. Our primary goal is public safety. We've done over 90 interviews.
Good afternoon. My name is Roger Lanier. Here's what we've determined so far. On the evening of November 12th, Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen were at a local bar and were later at a food truck in downtown Moscow. They arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi house before also arriving home approximately 1:45 a.m. 2 surviving roommates were also out in the community, and they returned home at approximately 1 a.m. and did not wake up until later that morning. On the morning of November 13th at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call was placed to the Whitcomb Dispatch Center reporting an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence and was made from the phone of one of the surviving roommates. Moscow Police Department officers responded and located 4 victims, 2 on the second floor and 2 on the third floor.
Classes were supposed to resume on November 28 after fall break, which started on November 18th. Because they didn't believe the police's first assurances and were concerned for their personal safety, many students and other Moscow residents started leaving the city before Thanksgiving. The remaining residents were fearful and cautious, and some of the teachers canceled classes. On the evening of November 30th, the candlelight vigil was held inside in the Kibbe Dome due to weather concerns. In the early stages of the investigation, the police said there was no suspect and the information they shared with the families of the 4 victims was limited. Kaylee's father was one of the most vocal parents on social media with regards to the lack of communication between the law enforcement and the families, and he criticized the way things were being handled, fearing the case had the chance of becoming a cold one. The Moscow Police Department was conducting the investigation into the stabbings with assistance from the Leta County Sheriff's Office and the Idaho State Police, with over 130 officers working on the case in total. On November 17th, the Leta County coroner performed autopsy on the 4 victims. She stated that they all appeared to have been stabbed repeatedly, suffering fatal injuries to the chest and upper torso. The victims may have been attacked while they were sleeping in their beds, and at least one victim, who had what seemed to be defensive stab wounds on her hands, and maybe more, appeared to have attempted to fend off their attacker. Xana's fingers were nearly severed from trying to keep the knife at a distance. There were no indications of SA.
The Latah County coroners conducted autopsies, and detectives have been provided with the results, determined the cause and manner of death as homicide by stabbing, and determined that it was likely all 4 victims were asleep during the attack. Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times. There was no sign of sexual assault.
On November 19, police made a plea that anyone with video of the residence that had been taken the night of the murders submit it. Students and others should contact officials via a phone tip line and email to provide potential evidence. According to reports, as of December 5th, these tip lines had received more than 2,600 emails, 2,700 phone calls, and 1,000 contributions of digital material from members of the public. The investigating team reported having at least 15,000 tips about the case on December 24th. Police reported on December 15 that they were looking into records of over 22,000 fifth-generation Hyundai Elantras produced between 2010 and 2015 after getting hundreds of leads from the general public. An Elantra was visible in the area where the killings took place, according to a camera that was there at the time. The white Hyundai Elantra that was shown on surveillance footage at the time of the murders seemed to travel twice to the victim's house and in the direction of Pullman, Washington, according to the investigators. The victim's residence was passed by an Elantra 3 times, starting at roughly 3:29 a.m., according to surveillance footage. The Elantra made a 4th trip back to the house at 4:04 in the morning. The car was observed leaving the neighborhood of the victims at a fast rate of speed, about 4:20 in the morning. The request from the police was that the owner of the Elantra to come forward and talk to the investigators in the hope that they might have seen something that could be of help for the law enforcement to identify a suspect. The police continued to say they had not identified the perpetrator yet. The news that everyone was hoping for came on December 30th, when an FBI SWAT team and Pennsylvania State Police detained 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger at his parents' house in Monroe County, Pennsylvania.
Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Xana, Madison, and Kaylee.
At that point, the only public information was that he owned the white Hyundai Elantra that was of interest to the police, and slowly reports appeared of him being pulled over twice within a nearly 5-mile radius by Indiana State Police on Interstate 70 outside Greenfield, Indiana, for speeding and tailgating while driving with his father to the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania for the holidays.
Hello, how y'all doing? Good, good. Take your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on the van. He's right up on the back of that van. Going over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're standing over.
What's WSU?
Yeah, Idaho University, basically. That is watching the area.
Oh, okay.
We're finally going to be driving hours.
Hours, days.
Right. Well,
Well, do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? All right, thank you. Appreciate you.
I stopped me when you were driving by me there. You were a little too close to back that semi. Between you and the back of this trailer. About 1 car going 10 miles an hour. Okay. All right. Please have safe trip. Thank you, sir.
Let's see who is Bryan Kohberger and how was he linked to the murders. Kohberger was born in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania on November 21, 1994. His parents were originally from Brooklyn, New York. He attended Monroe Vocational and Technology Institute in Bartonsville shortly after graduating from Pleasant Valley High School in 2013, but left a year later. He enrolled in Bethlehem's Northampton Community College, where he graduated in 2018 with an associate's degree in psychology. He worked as a security guard for the Pleasant Valley School District after graduating from Northampton, the same district where his mother had once worked as a substitute teacher and where his father had previously worked for many years as a maintenance worker. He graduated from DeSales University in Center Valley, Pennsylvania, with a BA in Criminal Justice in 2020 and an MA in Criminal Justice in 2022. Then, Kohberger relocated to Washington to earn a PhD at Pullman's Washington State University. Moscow is roughly 16 kilometers, or 10 miles, from the Pullman campus. He was a PhD student in criminology at the time of the killings, and 9 days prior to his arrest, his first semester day was finished. Less than 2 weeks prior to the killings, Kohberger and faculty members from Washington State University met to discuss mounting concerns about Kohberger's conduct and behavior. He had been a teaching assistant there. On November 19th, Kohberger's employment as a teaching assistant was terminated due to his unsatisfactory performance as a teaching assistant, particularly his failure to fulfill the norms of professional behavior in his dealings with the faculty, according to the ruling. Kohberger was detained without bond in the Monroe County Correctional Center in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, following his arrest on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 felony crime of burglary. He was also given a public lawyer. He consented to extradition on January 3, 2023, upon his return to the Monroe County courts. He was flown to Idaho on January 4th and brought to the Lata County Prison, where he was held without bond. Let's talk about how and why he is the suspect in the Idaho killings. According to the probable cause affidavit for the case, one surviving roommate was sound asleep on the 2nd level, which was the same floor as Xana and Ethan, before she was awoken by what sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog. She later heard a roommate saying something to the effect of, "There's someone here." The roommate believed this was said by Kaylee, although investigators also believe this might have been Xana speaking, as a forensic download of her cell phone showed that she was on the app TikTok at 4:12 a.m. The surviving roommate opened her door twice within a short span of time, and the second time she heard what sounded like crying coming from Xana's room and the male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Security cameras near the home picked up the sound of whimpering, a loud thud, and the dog barking numerous times starting around 4:17 a.m. The surviving roommate opened her door a 3rd time and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. The man, whom the roommate did not recognize, walked right past her and used the sliding glass door to exit. The roommate stood in a frozen shock face and then locked herself in her room. This roommate was later revealed to be Dylan Mortensen, and she described the man as being around 5 feet 10 inches and not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. Cell phone data retrieved by investigators revealed that Kohberger's phone lost network connectivity at around 2:47 a.m. on November 13th in Pullman before re-establishing it around 4:48 a.m. close to Blaine, Idaho, which is close to US Route 95 south of Moscow. Also, cell phone records reveal that he was close to the victim's home on November 13th at 9 a.m., or 5 hours after the murders. Data seized by the police also showed that he passed by the house at least 12 times between June 2022 and November 13, 2022. A DNA sample from the crime scene that did not belong to any of the victims was also collected by investigators. On Maddie's bed, a tan leather knife sheath with DNA was discovered. They found a partial match to a person with a family connection to Kohberger using a public genealogical database. By comparing the DNA from the knife sheath to DNA found on trash that was retrieved from Kohberger's family's Pennsylvania home, investigators were able to find that the genetic material from the trash belonged to the father of the person who left their DNA on the knife sheath. Investigators kept an eye on Kohberger outside his parents' Pennsylvania house before he was taken into custody. He was repeatedly observed putting trash bags in a neighbor's trash can while wearing surgical gloves. For testing, the objects were delivered to the Idaho State Laboratory. Kohberger had cleaned his car inside and out without missing an inch of space, according to the authorities. When he was apprehended by the police in his kitchen, Kohberger was wearing a shirt and shorts, but he was also wearing examination gloves, and he was putting trash into separate Ziploc baggies. On January 5, 2023, Kohberger had his first court appearance and was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary for breaking into a home with the intention of committing a crime. On January 12, 2023, a week after his initial appearance, Kohberger returned to the Leta County Courthouse for a status conference. A preliminary probable cause hearing was scheduled for June 26, 2023, at the Leta County Courthouse. Since then, a gag order was put in place, so nobody directly involved in this case is allowed to disclose any type of info that they might have or further evidence that the prosecution or the police may have gathered. The information shared with the public when the probable cause affidavit was released is just a small portion of the information that the police has about the case and about Kohberger. Basically, what they put in the probable cause affidavit was just enough as to justify why they wanted to arrest him and why they took him into custody. More details will probably be available after the June hearing. He is innocent until proven guilty, but things are not looking good for Kohberger at this point in time. After his arrest, a lot of info about how he is as a person in general came to light. So let's go through some example of things that may or may not be linked to the crimes he is accused of committing. Starting with number 1, the online survey he posted on Reddit. He was studying for a PhD in criminology at the University of Washington State's Pullman campus. In May 2022, Kohberger posted a survey on Reddit asking criminals to respond on various questions regarding their way of breaking the law and the thought process behind that. This is what the survey said. Hello, my name is Bryan, and I'm inviting you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. Here are some of the questions that the questionnaire had. Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your home? Why did you choose that victim or target over others? What was the first move you made to accomplish your goal? After committing the crime, what were you thinking and feeling? Since he was a criminology PhD student, normally this survey would not stand out, but considering the possibility that he might be the murderer of the 4 young students, I don't know, it does look a lot like he was just trying to anticipate some feelings and aspects he needed to pay attention to in the case in which he decided to move forward with his plans. His intent of joining the police. Kohberger applied for an internship with his local Washington State Police Department in the weeks before the University of Idaho killings. In an essay he submitted with his application, he wrote that he wanted to assist rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. He didn't get accepted. Again, maybe he really was interested in providing support and make use of his knowledge by helping law enforcement. Or maybe he just wanted more access to information or privileges that would have aided him in committing the killings. This is pure speculation though, as we don't have the certainty he is guilty at this moment in time. Online confessions from when he was younger. In an online post dating back to July 2011, Kohberger says he has been suffering from horrible depersonalization and how he feels demons in his head are mocking him. This is what he said. As I hug my family, I look into their faces, I see nothing. It is like I'm looking at a video game, but less. I feel less than mentally damaged. It is like I have severe brain damage. I am stuck in the depths of my mind where I have to constantly battle my demons. Am I here or am I fake? Being me is this horrible disease that I was given. I think of this as I succumb to sleep, but I see a large intensity of black, yellow, white fuzz. It makes my mind fizzle and I can barely keep it in the bounds of reality. It is as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of the demons in my head mocking me. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams. Is any of this here? Now, I'm not sure if this was verified and confirmed that it was actually Kohberger that posted this, but if it really was him, then it makes you wonder, was he unable to handle his thoughts or emotions at one point? He followed the girls on social media and messaged one of the girls without getting a response. A phone that belonged to Bryan Kohberger was collected after his arrest. On that phone, he had several pictures of one of the victims. It's not clear if the photos were downloaded maybe from social media or if he took the photos himself. There's also data that says he messaged one of the girls several times, but he didn't get a response. He studied under the female professor that wrote a book about the BTA killer. At DeSales University, he was taught by Catherine Ramsland, a forensic pathologist who has authored many books, including How to Catch a Killer and The Mind of a Murderer. This professor was in contact with the BTA killer, and people are wondering if maybe Kohberger was inspired by him. As of now, the BTA killer denied to have had any contact with Kohberger, but we don't know if that is true or not. He was a vegan and he went to the Mad Greek where Maddie and Xana worked. Another piece of info about Kohberger is that he was a vegan, so much so that he asked his family to buy new pots and pans to cook for him in an effort to make sure no animal products touched the pans. That would explain why Kaylee's dog was unharmed in the attack if he is the perpetrator. He often went out to eat at the Mad Greek where Maddie and Xana were working, so this could be another link between him and the victims. A lot of theories and speculations circulate online about what could be the reason for such a horrible crime if he really is the one that murdered Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. There are comparisons being made between him and Elliot Rogers, the famous incel that was so unhappy with the way women treated him, and because they didn't want to be in a relationship with him, he just lost it and he went on a killing spree. Was Bryan also feeling rejected by one of the victims? Was it Maddie? Was it Kaylee? Was it Xana? There is also the theory that maybe he was buying drugs from the house and somehow things escalated and he murdered the students. The broader theory is that one of the two surviving roommates was selling, then one of the victims confronted said roommate, threatening to reveal everything to the police, and the roommate asked Kohberger to kill the four. Personally, I think this is very far-fetched, not impossible, but it is improbable. There are two facts that helped build this belief, the one being the amount of time that had passed between the murders and the 911 call. Also, questions about how the two surviving roommates didn't hear the four students screaming or fighting for their lives have been circulating the internet. The second fact is that allegedly, when Bryan was arrested and brought to the police station, he asked if he was the only one arrested. Since the case was especially heinous and just terrible, social media attention skyrocketed. Many people started doing their own research into Kohberger, and forums discussing the crimes were filled with opinions about what really happened on the night of November 13th. One member in particular managed to stand out because of the remarks and statements he made in the public discussions. The account was named Papa Rogers, and the thing that rose some serious eyebrows was the fact that he said the police could have found the knife sheath at the scene of the crime. At that time, the information about the knife sheath and the DNA that was found on it was not made public, yet he knew about it. The account was also linked to Elliot Rogers just because of the last name, and people believed this was actually Bryan Kohberger paying some kind of a tribute to Elliot Rogers. Because of the gag order in place, not much info can be shared with the public, so everyone is trying to read into every single piece of info that comes to light. The list of items seized from Bryan's car and house was released to the public, and this started a new wave of speculations. Black face masks, multiple laptops, and other electronic devices, including his cell phone, as well as books, numerous dark-colored clothing items and shoes, a gun, multiple knives, a criminal psychology book, and another volume with underlining on page 118, along with a note to Dad from Bryan and the green leafy substance, medical records, and Kohberger's AT&T phone bill, a shovel, goggles, floor mats, boots, and a reflective vest. These and many more items were taken from Kohberger's house in Pennsylvania, and from the Hyundai Elantra. The police also took gas and brake pedals, seats, seat cushions, and headrests. From the apartment he had in Washington State, investigators took a mattress cover, possibly stained with blood, human hair strands, and a glove. If and when these items turn out to be linked to the murders, we will have to wait and see. The hearing that Kohberger has on June 26th may shed some light on the evidence that the prosecution has on him, except from the details that have been made public so far. For now, Kohberger is staying behind bars, in his own cell, with his own TV, while his defense team is working on the case and even bringing another lawyer in to help. They are expecting the prosecution to ask for the death penalty if Bryan is found guilty. Will he be joining the other 8 prisoners on death row in the state of Idaho? That is something to be seen. A multitude of other details are available online regarding this case. I just gathered the details that seemed to make the most sense and had relevance to the events that unfolded in the early morning hours of November 13th. The amount of false information that is out there is crazy, and I really wanted to stay away from the speculations that basically have no grounds. What do you think about the entire situation? Do you feel like there is enough evidence to prove already that Kohberger is guilty? Let me know in the comment section. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.